Hello and welcome. And I want to welcome all of you, whoop, all of you, and on Facebook, on Instagram, if you are on Twitter watching, and also on YouTube. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And today I have the pleasure to be joined by Jose del Rio, who is an organizer with LA Democracy Vouchers, and also Liz Suk, who is the executive director for Oakland Rising, and who has brought an incredible win here, in California for democracy vouchers in Oakland. So they're going to tell us a little bit more about who they are in just a minute. But I want to welcome you and I want to invite you to ask questions and to share your comments. And of course, we want to. We're very excited to be, with our broader community here in social media. But we always like to foster an environment of good commentary, of respect, of eloquent questions, of a place where we can all learn and also agree to disagree. So we hope that as you join us, you keep those things in mind. So as many of you saw on Sunday, there was an op-ed that I wrote in the LA Times, and they titled it "Let the Unwealthy Participate in Politics." And this was part of a series of op-eds that were published under 10 ideas to fixing Los Angeles. And if you are just walking into this conversation, these series of op-eds were ignited out of the recordings that were leaked by an anonymous individual that exposed the city council of Los Angeles speaking in very derogatory terms about the Black community and the indigenous communities in Los Angeles. He also talked in they talked in a stand about power and harvesting and getting more power basically for themselves. So something that I have been thinking about and that the three of us are going to be discussing here is how do we curb the money in politics? How do we deal with giving access to all people, low income folks, people of color, and not just rich donors and special interests? So one of the proposals that I had in my reporting was democracy vouchers. So for that, I want to invite Jose to share a little bit with us about what are democracy vouchers. If people are just watching right now, what do we tell them? What are democracy vouchers?
Well, thank you so much, Aura. Thank you to Liz for being here tonight. Like Aura mentioned, my name is Jose del Rio. I am an organizer with LA for Democracy Vouchers here in Los Angeles, California, my hometown. With that said, Democracy Vouchers are an interesting program. They're a way that we can empower everyday Angelinos, everyday folks here in LA to sort of take back our campaign finance system and take back our political system. Aura set up the table very nicely when she talked about sort of the state of LA's politics with these tapes that were leaked. You saw a sort of ugly side of politics that doesn't represent the true values of Los Angeles. Instead, it represents a political elite, a group of people who want to consolidate their power and keep it to themselves. And Democracy Vouchers is a way to prevent that. And how it works is that it's a campaign finance program that every campaign election cycle, the city of Los Angeles would mail out vouchers, essentially almost like gift cards, to every eligible resident in the city of Los Angeles. And those residents would be able to use those to donate to candidates who qualify for the program. Those candidates would then be able to cash those in for actual cash that they can use on their campaigns. And it's an important program because it allows individuals who traditionally are kept out or left out of the political process, of the campaign donor process, to participate in the process and actually give to campaigns and candidates that represent their true values.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And now we have the pleasure here to also have Liz Suk, who is the executive director of Oakland Rising. and they just conducted an incredible campaign to bring democracy vouchers to the city of Oakland. So Liz, please tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about the journey that got you from learning about democracy vouchers to now it's a reality in Oakland.
Thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity to just be here and talk with you all and to introduce democracy dollars. We call them democracy dollars in Oakland because vouchers has a little bit of a kind of negative connotation in regards to privatization of our public schools. So we decided to go with democracy dollars here in Oakland. I am not born here, but I was raised here in Oakland since I was 10, so going on 38 years of my life, really based here in Oakland, and really have seen over the many, many years the way in which politicians and outside money have really influenced the way our city is run. And we have, it's sort of a trope, right? It's a trope in politics. You're influenced by, politicians are influenced by big money. They're influenced by corporations. They're influenced by the biggest donors. But I know the heart of Oakland is really a history of organizing. In the Bay, we have a really long history of the Black Panther movement and all of the solidarity movements, including the Yellow Peril, the Red Nation, the Brown Berets, that come out of the Third World Liberation Front movements. And much of the work that we do here in Oakland is based in that reality and that history. And we have seen over the years grassroots candidates who come from our communities, that represent our communities, that really understand the everyday struggles that systematic oppression places on them and places on the rest of us. And they have tried to run and cannot compete with the hundreds of thousands of dollars that now are pouring into Oakland. This election in 2022, we saw the coal industry that want to bring coal through Oakland bring in $500,000 in the mayoral race in an independent expenditure. And so what influence will that have, right? What does that look like in Oakland? And when we continue to allow big money in Oakland to play such a big part. And the money that really comes into Oakland or that is contributed in Oakland really come from 1% of the population in the top tier of our income brackets here in Oakland. And this has, I think, also played a very big role in how we think about who our politicians are and who our electeds really represent. And so, Oakland Rising joined the coalition. I have to say, we have worked on many different ballot measure campaigns, and this has to be one of the best ones in terms of the coalition. So Oakland Rising, Bay Rising, League of Women Voters Oakland, Common Cause California, ACLU Northern California, Asian Law Caucus, and MapLight really came together and built a coalition and committee that was based on real values, the true progressive values of cooperation and transformative leadership. And how do we do that together? And I think we were able to do that very well. Oakland Rising led in terms of the voter outreach, and we're able to talk to over 5,000 voters in Oakland, both on the phones and at the doors. ACLU also led the campaign in terms of phone banking and some texting, and also reached out to equal numbers of voters as well. And we won. We won with a very great majority of 70%. We still have some votes to count here in Oakland, but I am doubtful that that is going to move even close to anything below 51%. So very excited. We know that Oaklanders want to hear their voices heard. And 60% of Oakland lives in what we call the flatlands. So that's folks who are working class, poor, immigrants, folks of color, our Black community, our indigenous community. That's where those folks live. And we want to see more of those faces in our elected positions.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for bringing that history about how the coalition was formed and what took place in Oakland. And I'm so glad that you spoke about the candidates and the good people that could be elected today that haven't been able to get elected because they can't compete. And when the recordings got leaked here in Los Angeles, and when we found out, what some folks thought about other folks in these recordings, I got so many phone calls because I also ran for city council, and I was one of those people that couldn't compete with the money. And in my op-ed, I talk about it, and I say, I love this piece where I said, if you scroll through the fundraising statements of many LA politicians, you will see page after page of $800 donations. The legal maximum. This is how much people can donate here in LA, according to our campaign donations law. The legal maximum a donor can give to an individual and can dictate a candidate in an election. These donors are wealthy, but who from District 10, so from my area, who from District 10 feel chiefly with working class people of color who contribute to a political campaign when the average resident earns $47,000?
Right.
So who from my neighbors or from the community that know me, that I organize with, that I support, who could potentially, donate $800? They don't even have enough. So I guess I want to ask you, Jose, how I started organizing with, and supporting this effort of Democracy Vouchers because I see how important it is. Share with us how you guys see this really being a game changer for Los Angeles and for grassroots campaigns.
Yeah, I think you and Liz really laid it out quite nicely. You said there's pages after pages of $800 donations in every candidate. Well, I don't want to say every, but a lot of candidates.
Many.
Many candidates' campaign coffers or war chests, right? And what we're seeing is that those pages don't only come from residents in Los Angeles, but they actually come from people outside of LA, people from all across the country, people who don't live in Los Angeles, people who own, large estates, people who own large corporations. In fact, one of the biggest donors in the 2020 campaign here in Los Angeles was a lot of the folks from the hometown of the Walton family, the Walmart Corporation, which is nice to know. But what I'm getting at basically is that you have all these corporations, all these big money donors who believe they can buy our elections. And Democracy Vouchers at least empowers the ordinary people, empowers the ordinary person to sort of compete on that level so that candidates like yourself, Aura, and candidates like other folks who are our neighbors, who are ordinary folks in LA, can actually go and be responsive to them. In Seattle, where this program originated about 5 years ago, at least originated in its implementation, after it was passed, you had a candidate who was unhoused, who came from the unhoused community, who ran solely on Democracy Vouchers that he received from his neighbors, his unhoused neighbors, and he was a viable candidate. So Democracy Vouchers is a game changer. It uplifts other folks, ordinary folks, so that they can campaign and they can go into neighborhoods that are traditionally left out or kept out of the donor pool, and see what issues are responsive to them and make promises to them and actually follow through on those promises. And at the same time, collect donations, which are incredibly important to a candidate's campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say, I want to make sure that everybody knows that there's no ordinary people and no ordinary love. That we are all incredible. Like the Sade song, for
Absolutely.
those of you that are in that era, you know what I'm talking about.
I wanted to jump in here.
Yeah,
We're talking about grassroots candidates, and how wonderful this would actually be for the opportunity for them to run
yeah,
and be able to have a viable chance to running. And why this is so incredible is because the way that this works is because they have to go and get these vouchers from people. It
exactly.
requires them to have grassroots organizing skills, and their
In place.
campaign
Absolutely.
becomes a grassroots organizing campaign. So what we saw in Seattle, which is actually why I was more interested and why Oakland Rising and our collaborative partners really were interested in this, is the equitable democracy that this brings, is that now it takes the candidates from focusing on what they call high propensity voters
Right.
and high propensity donors, and
Hmm.
go to people and ask them to actually participate. So
Yeah,
what we saw in Seattle was not just were candidates having viable races, but the reason they had viable races is now we had POC, immigrant, low income communities who had previously been targeted to be excluded from the electoral process participate. And so with each election, we saw an increase, right? We saw 12, I think it was like 12% increase. We've seen over 60% of these communities come out in larger numbers each election, and participate. And that, I think, is why anybody might be against democracy vouchers or democracy dollars
dollars.
programs, because they don't want us to participate. The system is created so that we don't participate. So for me, I think that's actually the most viable part of this, is that it actually gives voters an opportunity and voice to
Absolutely.
be a part of the process. It also gives, this is the last thing I'll say about this, that also gives donors who are unable to vote the ability to participate in the electoral process, that are definitely every day impacted by these policies, by these budgets, by these decisions made by these electeds who, are in the pockets of corporations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm so glad that you're bringing this point up, because in my election with the folks that analyze data, and maybe some of the people in my community are not very acquainted for how this happens, but there is a platform, there is a database where we can see who votes in your area, in your district. You have no idea how many times I had this discussion with them where they said, Aura, only focus with these people that vote all the time. Do not
All the
waste your
time.
time. And
Yeah.
I was like, but this is the problem. This is the problem, that we never reach a larger group
That's
of
right.
marginalized people that are already marginalized. We had, in my district at least, we had 250,000 people.
That's right.
And in a primary election, like 20,000 will vote. Tell me something is wrong with this picture. And it's really hard because you only have finite resources, right? You only have so much time and you only have so much money. So I think Democracy Vouchers is so great because it also, for someone like me that went knocking on doors and walked 3, 4, 5 miles every day, knocking on doors and talking to residents in my area, I could have said to them, well, would you donate 25? Would you donate $50 of your democracy dollars to my campaign? And that could have potentially been a game changer. So, we also
and even
see,
if you didn't get the democracy voucher or the democracy dollars, you outreach to somebody. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Absolutely.
the other part to this is that in campaigns, and I'm curious to hear what people that are watching have to say about this. In campaigns, aren't you so tired of getting all those mailers? I had a stack like this of mailers. And for someone like me, that I'm like at the court and environmental justice organizer, it makes me crazy to have to utilize my own money to pollute our environment.
That's right.
So more FaceTime, less mailers, which has been traditionally what people use, what candidates that have more funds use to reach out to, to their constituents.
Right.
So I think this is going to be a game changer. I want to hear from you guys. Who's going to pay for this? Because, we always have those folks that are going to say, well, it sounds great, but, who's going to give everybody all that money?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of ideas about where that money can come from, really. And if we look in our budgets, our police take up over 60% of our general fund. So, I mean, let's start with that as a caveat. And before we could go there, I believe in Seattle, they had a parcel tax that helped pay for that. But in Oakland, we decided because so much of our system has really leaned on the generosity of our homeowners in Oakland, that continuing to ask them for another parcel tax didn't seem like the right thing to do. And because we do have a general fund that should be taking care of us and taking care of all Oaklanders, we decided that we would request that it comes out of the general fund. And Oaklanders also agreed with that by 70% of the electorate that voted. So it comes out of our general fund. There's caps, obviously, per candidate because it's an infinite amount of money, and we don't have infinite amounts of money. But biannually, it's $8 million. And we think that that's a small price to pay to have an equitable democracy where, every Oaklander has an opportunity to participate in the electoral process.
Amazing. So, Jose, how do you think we're going to, how is this looking for Los Angeles? So I know that this is very preliminary, and if you are watching this live stream, and if you are interested on joining the movement, I'll put some resources later so you can join us. But what are we thinking in terms of LA? So how what's the timeline? What's next? How can we galvanize this moment where now Seattle has a democracy dollars, Oakland has democracy dollars? How can LA be another city, as I like to call it, in the op-ed?
Yeah, I think LA needs to follow Oakland's lead. Absolutely. Oakland has overwhelmingly shown that this program is viable. It's something that people are interested in. I mean, Liz just nailed it just a few seconds ago, but one of the things she ended on was 70% of folks in Oakland, nearly 70% of folks in Oakland were in favor of this. And that is an incredible margin in politics. But that aside, going back to like the nuts and bolts of a program like this, well, Seattle decided to do a parcel tax. Oakland decided to do it out of the general coffers. All of that is fueled by sort of the health of the city's budget. We know that LA city's budget is healthy at this point. I think Oakland's was facing a few lean years, for the last couple years. And there's certainly other programs, cough LAPD, who could cough LAPD, who could certainly we could use that money to fund a program like this, to have a diversification of donors, a diversification of city council, and a diversification of candidates who represent true LA. So you said it, right now we're having discussions with the city of Los Angeles, we're having discussions with organizers, we're having discussions with the public at large, holding town halls, talking to folks, and getting a sense for what their needs and what their wants are. We're looking to sort of put this on the ballot in 2024, or maybe pass it a little bit after if necessary. But 2024 is the goal. I know we just got done with an election, and I'm talking about elections already. Don't tune me out. Just hear me out. We have a lot of work to do. I mean, we want to get this on the ground. The city of LA is huge. It's bigger than 30 states. Something like that. So we have a lot of work to do as organizers. So myself and the other organizers that are a part of Los Angeles for Democracy Vouchers have a lot of work to do to go into those communities, and especially in those communities that aren't participating because the system isn't geared for their participation. That includes the South Centrals of Los Angeles. That includes the East LA's, my hometown. That includes Boyle Heights. That includes Nila, Lincoln Heights, Highland Park. That includes those cities and towns that have such rich histories in Los Angeles, but are not invited to participate in our campaign finance system because those folks are worried about their paychecks. Those folks are worried about their rent. Those folks are worried about how they're going to live here in the city of LA. This program will assuage those fears and will allow them to have an opportunity to participate and elect somebody that will be responsive to them. So look out for more information. I know, Aura, you're going to drop the link for LA for Democracy Vouchers in chat. So
absolutely. And somebody's giving a shout out to South LA, and I was definitely going to mention because there are so many good people that come from our community that cannot compete in terms of finance and dollars to run campaigns. So this could potentially be a game changer. Now, I want us to maybe have a quick conversation about how democracy vouchers can also fight corruption. Because like Los Angeles is a scandal after scandal with city council members that are indicted by the FBI, that are, accused of doing things that are caught on tape, and recorded.
An embarrassment.
I mean, I'm scared. I have heard comments about that there are a lot more coming, and I'm like, please, I don't even know if I can handle one more. So how can democracy vouchers? I think it's important for people to understand that this is not just like the money in politics. The money in politics is very linked to corruption. I mean, because as someone that has been, fighting the fossil fuel industry my whole life, I know that they have such a huge hand in the honeypot, in terms of they understand how the system works. They put elected officials in place. They pay for campaigns. They have independent expenditures. So, so the good guys can never compete. But democracy vouchers can also offer a way for us to fight corruption. I want to hear your guys' take on how that can happen.
Well, can I jump in here? I think like what's really key is that actually in our ballot Measure W, Fair Elections Oakland, wasn't just Democracy Dollars program. It actually brought the Democracy Dollars program and the oversight of this public campaign finance program under our Public Ethics Commission, which is a public commission. And so it then comes out and is overseen by that commission. We also added to this, we can't overturn Citizens United in Oakland on our own. And so, being able to take out all of that money that corporations pour into super PACs and pour into our independent expenditures that influence our campaigns. But we can require them now, any PAC to name their top 3 donors on all of their literature, all their lit, and all their campaign material in order to shed some light on where that money actually is coming from. And I think that's an important piece for us because we don't know. We can sleuth around and make some pretty big guesses about where that money comes from. And but really, if there was a desire by folks to not to hide that money, it is very easily done. And I think that this helps to really, shine a really large light of like a big spotlight into where some of that money comes from. And this allows us to be able to do that, to see who are those big donors in Oakland, in our city, and really contributing to that. I will say this, as we see, there are many great organizations, 501c4 organizations that have PACs, that have community PACs, political action committees that contribute to campaigns. The money that goes through those spaces cannot compete with some of the hundreds of millions of dollars that are poured into from, you know, large, rich donors, millionaires and billionaires, as well as corporations. But what's really key to that is that we're willing to let you see where that money comes from.
Right.
We're willing to show you. Unions are willing to show you because it comes from their members, and they're very avid about sharing that that's who their members are, and representing their needs and desires for the city. Whereas corporations want to, you know, hide in the dark.
Right.
And I think our ability to shine a light on those top 3 donors and naming them very clearly is a big key. The other thing is, in Oakland, we went from the special committee contributions are currently at $1,800, and individual donors are at $900. This cuts it in half. So we go down to $1,000 at the special committee level, and then it goes down to $600 for individuals. And so this is a way for us to encourage individuals to participate in the voucher program and encourage candidates to seek out the vouchers rather than seeking out more individual donors.
Wow, incredible, incredible. Okay, so I guess I want to talk about a little bit about what is the opposition. So especially for you guys in Oakland, and I don't know, Jose, if you know much about this topic in you know, in Seattle, or maybe even here already in Los Angeles, who are opposing this type of, you know, kind of alternatives or policies for, you know, for the different cities that now have democracy dollars or are looking into bring democracy dollars.
Sure, I can take a stab at this first. So in Seattle, it was a parcel tax. So naturally, big developers, landlords, you know, people in the real estate industry, stop me if you heard this one before, were naturally against that. And that was the opposition. There wasn't a robust opposition campaign in Seattle, but there was opposition. I'll let Liz talk to Oakland, because I know Liz was on the ground the whole way in Oakland. But here in the city of Los Angeles, it's really dependent on the work we're putting in now. Because right now we're sort of taking the position of doing this organizing through an equitable lens. We want to invite everybody to the table. We want to make sure that groups that aren't traditionally part of campaign finance discussions are a part of these discussions and can voice their concerns. We're going into the South Centrals of Los Angeles, the East LAs, and we're talking to those folks on the ground and the community groups that represent them, the faith groups that represent them, the local groups, the local chapters that represent them, to create a really robust and diverse, and I want to emphasize diverse, a diverse coalition of folks to bring this to the table in 2024. And by doing that, we're really limiting the amount of opposition. And in the soft conversations that we're having with different groups, everybody's pretty excited for this. This is a unique time in the city of Los Angeles. And this is one of the things that was, I don't want to say spurned out of the tapes, but because of the tapes release, a lot of folks are looking for democratic reforms here in the city of LA. They're looking at other programs that they can institute as quickly as possible to prevent any, you know, folks like the three disgraced three disgraced city
well, there's
council
plenty
folks.
of those too.
Yeah, there's I'm lowballing on Congress, but the three disgraced city council folks from the tapes. And Auda, you mentioned it a little bit earlier. I mean, at this point, the FBI should just get a seat on LA City Council, because I feel like they attend more meetings than some of our city council folks. But that being said, you know, we need reform here in LA.
Yeah.
We need to follow Oakland's lead. We need to inject new life into the Ethics Commission, make sure they're adequately staffed, make sure they can serve as an independent watchdog. We need to empower an independent watchdog in the city of LA to, you know, sort of govern and look after city council folks and make sure that they're doing their jobs and are being responsive to their constituencies and not the big money donors who are bankrolling their campaigns time and time again. We need to make sure that we're bringing those folks who don't want to be brought into the light. We need to drag them into the light and see and make sure that their their intentions, that their contributions are known by the city of LA and known by the regular folks here in LA. So we need to follow Oakland's lead.
Yeah, absolutely. So how was your opposition for this campaign, please?
It was minimal. We had in our, I think in our voter pamphlet, somebody had submitted opposition to the democracy vouchers. A lot of it was actually filled with a lot of lies about one, where the money would come from and what it actually does. But we were able to, submit a rebuttal. I think that actually highlighted even more our the merits of the Democracy Dollars program and much of the other equitable democracy measures that were included in the ballot measure. But then when we actually went out and talked to folks, there were no opposition talking to anybody because I don't think there was the ability for anybody to run a campaign against the really strong merits of our ballot measure. And when we talk to folks on the doors and on the phones, and I believe when we were texting as well, aside from those who were just like, oh my God, I'm so sick of hearing from people, what we heard back from folks was, what is that? Was the first response. And then where is the money coming from? And when we discuss with them the merits of democracy program, we just had overwhelming folks identifying with and agreeing that they would vote for it. It was, I believe, at like 80% when we were talking to voters. And, it showed 70% of those who came out to vote voted in favor of this. And I'm really excited to look and see the voter data and see who voted and where it was, who in Oakland voted for this, because I think it's going to be a telling story about what folks in Oakland really want.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have one last thing that I want to discuss. If I don't see any, if you're watching this live stream, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please post them on the chat and I'll read them aloud, or I'll show them if you're on Facebook or on Twitter or such. So lastly, in Democracy Vouchers will give residents a voucher worth of $25 each voucher.
For $25 vouchers.
Yeah, exactly. So it's $100.
Right.
$100 of four $25 vouchers. So is this also, this was the case in Seattle, right, and this is the case also in
Oakland.
In Oakland. So how do you foresee people actually, or given the history, you guys have been very embedded in working on this campaign and have learned a lot of best practices from Seattle, which is like our mothership, I guess we can call it. But
that visual was great. That visual,
right? They're like our mothership. They're picking us up and they're taking us with them. But okay, $25. I'm a mom. Like, I organize a lot of park access and open space here in my neighborhood. I'm a mom with 3 kids in school. I got my $100. Now what? Like, so in the case of Seattle, how has this changed the game, or is $100 enough to get people to also feel like, oh wow, now I have $100, so you know what? Let me pay attention. Let me vote. Maybe they come knocking on my door. Oh wow, this is the first time they come knocking on my door. Okay, now do I give this to Aura or to Liz or to Jose that are running? Like, now 3 people are coming knocking on my door. So what's been the difference? I want people to have a picture, because this finance campaign stuff is not that sexy. It's not that glamorous. It's not hip, but it's so necessary. It's so important, So how do we paint a picture to folks that are listening and that are watching about the impact that it has on someone? Because someone probably saying, "You're like $100, really, girl?" And you're fighting for this $100. Like, how far can $100 take us?
I feel like I feel like you just called us not hip. I feel like we're hip. We're hip. We're with it.
I'm trying to make us as hip as we can.
I don't think hip folks would call it hip. I will say I'm hella down. We're
There you go.
Yeah, we ride or die here in Oakland for our people. So,
Right.
you know, I won't call myself hip, but I will call myself, I'm down. I'm down for the people.
Woo!
I think
go ahead, Jose.
I was just gonna say on that note, I mean, I think the impact, the impact, as speaking for my unhip self, the impact of it is tremendous. I mean, I always say that money in politics, campaign finance, is a foundational right. It's a foundational issue that really bleeds into other issues. You care about housing in the city of LA. You care about green spaces. You care about pollution. You care about infrastructure. You care about any of that. Well, guess who takes care of that? Our city council. Our city council is the level of government for which we have the most interaction with. They're the ones who control our daily lives the most, not our congressperson, not our state assemblyman or state senator, not our senators. It's our city council folks. They're the ones who have the largest impact on our life. And if we're not electing folks and we're not empowering folks to elect candidates who represent their values, who come from their communities, who look like them, who sound like them, who had the same upbringing, who had the same, who are renters, who are the single moms, who are the nurse working the triple shift because she has to feed her kids, or who are the regular folks of LA. If we're not electing those folks and we're not empowering those folks to elect folks like that, then what are we doing here, right? The city of LA is a diverse community filled with Black and Brown, Indigenous, AAPI, folks from all over the country, folks from all over the world who come here for better opportunity. But what we're saying with our current campaign finance system is, those folks, the folks who are living paycheck to paycheck or who are one or two paychecks away from being financially insecure or being evicted, we're saying to them, look, you need to worry about that. Don't worry about your elected leaders with the current system. And that's not right. That's not the message we should be sending. We should be sending, look, worry about your daily life, but also here's a democracy voucher. Here's a democracy dollar so that you can find the candidate that best represents you. You can find the issue that best represents you, and you can make a donation that will empower them and hopefully get them elected to speak for you in City Hall.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you both so much for taking the time to walk with me through this conversation about democracy vouchers. We have a whole generation of millennials and Gen Zers, so we have to make this campaign very hip moving forward.
Lose a lot of people by saying hip.
All jokes aside, guys, we have to make sure that our young people also understand how important and these nuances these campaigns are. And I'm always so inspired to see young people fighting for our environment, fighting for gun safety, fighting for abortion rights. It really is so empowering and so exciting to see them. So now we have to start grooming them through campaign finance, because as you shared earlier, Liz, we're not gonna be able to overthrow Citizen United, but we can curb the influence of the money and politics in so many other ways. And
locally.
Yeah. And in Los Angeles, we also have, matching funds, which has been, it was a game changer for me. Otherwise, forget it. It would be by myself, but I think democracy dollars could be also something that can really help us, elevate and lift up other incredible grassroots candidates that, wouldn't traditionally have a chance. So, all right, some last comments before we go.
I just want to thank you for inviting us on to talk about our incredible win here in Oakland. And that I think for us, no one candidate will save us. No one ballot measure will save us, but people power will. And we think that the heart of Democracy Dollars is about building people power. And as we continue to build more power, electoral power, political power, we can begin to mitigate some of the really systematic impacts and damage that have been done to our communities, and really fight back for what all of our people really want, both in Oakland, in LA, in Seattle, and across this country, is that people want to thrive. People want to be safe. People want to be housed. People want to breathe clean air and drink clean water. And they want to be able to have viable work that is meaningful to them. And so this is just one piece of that overall work that we know needs to happen day in and day out.
Absolutely. Wow, that was beautiful, Liz. Thank you so much for bringing that all together, wrapping it up, because I agree with you. There's nothing like organizing. This is why I continue doing it. There is nothing like working with your neighbors, even when they're crazy and annoying. Like there is nothing like community and developing leaders in our community. We have such a wealth of incredible people that they just need tools. And Democracy Dollars is another tool in the toolbox, so that we can have a democracy that, that represents all of us. So any last thoughts, Jose? How do we get in touch with the LA Pips? Get involved. How do we get involved?
Yeah, well, everybody can get involved in LA. If you're in LA watching this live stream in LA, or you just want to learn more about the movement in LA, you can go to LAdemocracyvouchers.org. I know you have it pinned everywhere.
Right here and Facebook and everywhere. It's on the
Awesome.
comments, so get it going.
And then the last thing I'll say is that you definitely want to check out all the good work that Liz and the other organizers in Oakland did to pass this, and overwhelmingly pass this in the city of Oakland, and see what Measure W and the Democracy Dollars program up there does for the city of Oakland, and what something like that could do for the city of Los Angeles. And you can view that at fairelectionsoakland.org. Shout out to all those organizers in Oakland for doing all that great work. You guys are amazing and inspire us.
Donate.
Donate.
Friends. We also we organize,
donate, volunteer,
and we put our money down.
Tell 5 people, and have those 5 people tell 5 people. It's a movement, and it started in Oakland. Let's start it in LA. Let's get it going, folks.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you both so much. And thank you, everyone that joined us today in this live stream. I hope that you learn a lot more about Democracy Vouchers. If you have a copy of this, please save it for me. My parents and my whole family is asking for it. So I'm going to need a lot of copies to send out to Colombia, because, the fans want to frame them. But no, with all seriousness, I hope that you get involved. This, you think that this is too far ahead, but it's never early enough to get involved. So please share this video in your profile. Send it to a friend. Learn more. If you're in Oakland, join Oakland Rising. And if you're here in LA, join the team at LA Democracy Vouchers, and, stay involved. So thank you so much, everyone. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night. And of course, the conversation always continues on social media. So I see you guys in the comments. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And yes to more Democracy Vouchers, Democracy Dollars.